Testing, test, test, test. Okay, that looks good. Monetization, let's get that on. Hello everyone in the second channel, hopefully the video is up. I believe I did post both live streams on last week. Alright, let's just get this going. Should be live then. Last week. Alright. Let us just share this everywhere. Put it on Instagram once, I never really do that. Alright. Streaming now. Streaming now. Let me just get the link up. Alright. Sorry, one second. I'm just trying to share the link to the live stream everywhere. Yeah, basically, I've seen some comments already. Tim Pool basically has doubled down like a couple times that Squid Game is actually about communism. So I'm trying to get, where's the link? But yeah, I hope everyone's okay. I've got no fucking idea what I'm gonna make a video on tomorrow. I made that video tomorrow, and I was like, yesterday. And that's fine, because I wanted to talk that for a while, but then I was just like, fuck, what do I talk about now? Where is the fucking link thing on Instagram? There it is. Sorry, one sec. Alright, there we go. Like Squid Game, but I'm fucking sick of it now. I actually haven't watched it, because I'm too cool. I don't like anything popular, because if you like something that's popular, it means you have bad taste. Alright, so let me just share this on Twitter and Discord as well. Hey Benjamin, hey Leo, hey Kennedy, hey James Jr. Sorry, I'm going to get around to talking just for me in 1 second. I'm just trying to share everything. Live streaming. Ah, fuck off. Live streaming now. But yeah, I got a couple butthurt Nordic people in my comment section yesterday, because they're like, well, you're not from here, like you can't comment on this stuff. It's better than the UK. And I'm like, did you even fucking watch the video? I said literally I would swap the systems in like 1 second, and it's like they're still well butthurt. I even criticised Denmark and Norway, and I was like, well, if you don't want criticism, don't act like a mercenary force for the United States. Like, that's an easy way for me not to criticize your system of government. All right, sorry, just posting it. One more place, and then we're good. Post. Done. All right. Also, wow, Cav, thanks for saying I have bad taste. You're not wrong though. Sorry about that. Am I excited about Red? I don't even know what the fuck that is. It's some Taylor Swift song. Your video yesterday was great. Nice hearing anyone's take on mixed economies. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, because like that's the point I always try and hammer home a bit. It's like global capitalism means, you know, when people are like, this is something I actually want to talk about, but I just ran out of time, is like people will shit all over something like Vietnam, and then they'll be like, I don't want to be like Vietnam, I want to be like Norway. And it's like, well, the reason Vietnam isn't like Norway is because Vietnam isn't in NATO. Vietnam isn't like part of this Western bloc of countries that like dominate the global market. That's why Vietnam isn't like Norway. Of course, it's also run by the Communist Party, but I mean in terms of like the wealth and everything like that. The Edge glasses, Bono glasses. Do they? I think they both wear them, don't they? My dad actually saw them before they were famous when he went to uni in the 80s. Hey, Katie, thanks for joining. What are people saying? Squid Game is anti-capitalist. Yeah, so basically, I'll wait a bit longer before going really into it, but you can see the tweet on screen. And it's basically Tim Pool's been dunked on so much of this, but he can't let it go. He just keeps tweeting about it. So he first responded to Vosh, and then he was just responding generally to people criticizing him. It's so fucking stupid. Literally can't believe it. Oh no, I wasn't talking about the Vietnam War. Edge rocks the beanie too. Like, yeah, it's nearly beanie time in the UK, I guess. It's getting cold enough. Hey Alex, face palming over Russell Brand's YouTube channel. YouTube suggested I watch this instead. Yeah, like maybe Russell Brand's a good video that I could make, possibly. I need to read up more because obviously in the UK he's been like a figure for like maybe, I don't know, over 10 years or something. Probably longer, but like, I remember him around for about 10 years. But now he's just becoming, I wouldn't say like a grifter because I've watched some of those videos and he is still saying the same shit he always says. It's just the people he's platforming to come on and talk about this shit is the weirdest stuff. Yeah, JonTron was like, he's okay. I'm not even going to be very explicit about what he's saying. I'm just going to show you what he said. Oh my god, I thought this was a parody. Look at I just fucking. Is this actually real? People tell me in the comments. Is this fucking real? Some Mayor Pete fucking Amazon documentary. Isn't this guy like despised by the community he used to be a mayor of? Wasn't he like a massive fucking racist? Like, didn't he just destroy like certain communities to put in like horrible new properties and stuff? Damn, I hate Mayo Pete. He's apparently a leftist YouTube. The thing is, Russell Brand, he is some sort of weird fucking leftist. Like, and also like I don't think people saying like, is he the next Dave Rubin? I was like, I don't think so, because if you watch his conversation with Candace Owens, he is saying like the sort of like left-wing position, but at the same time it's like, why have you got her on in the first place? Like, why are you platforming this person? He also is just like genuinely like pretty hippie and crazy anyway, so why are we both up at 2 a.m? Well, YouTube's my job, so I can stay up to as late as I want. And I'm going to stay up even later. Oh yeah, last night I stayed up so late finishing that video last night. But to be fair, I did record it at like 12:30, like midnight. So I actually did quite a good job even getting it out before I went to bed. Whereas like, yeah, today, what have I really done? I just did like a massive workout, ate like a way too big dinner, and then just fell asleep for an hour. And then I made sure, like, because I was so tired, I made sure to put an alarm on my watch. And I was like, shit, like, I can't fall asleep and wake up at like 4 a.m. and think I need to live stream. I just got to get up at whatever time and live stream. British Joe Rogan. That's not a bad description, to be honest. I'd say Russell Brand knows what he believes a lot more than Joe Rogan. Like, he's not going to sit down with Candace Owens and have his mind change about something stupid. Yeah, Essex people always pretend they're like geezers anyway, like David Beckham, James Corden and stuff. It's 2 a.m, so 2:07 where I live. Seeing the stream title, I'm just going to apologise to my idiots on the side of the pond. Well, did anyone see that viral Twitter clip today where a right-wing talk show host said that like you can grow concrete but you can't grow trees, to like some guy who was talking about like he's like a sustainable labourer and he works with just timber or something. He's like, yeah, I plant more trees when we cut them down. He's like, what about concrete? And he's like, well, you can't plant concrete. And he just like ends the whole fucking thing. I don't know if anyone saw that. Mayor Pete is literally some nobody mayor from Middle America. He's astroturfed by the DNC. What a joke. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Katie, thanks so much for the super chat. Really, really appreciate that. $10. So nice of you, as usual. Katie's funding my entire lifestyle. I always say this. Next video should be a deep dive into communist subliminal messages in Red. Taylor's version. Okay, what the fuck is Taylor's version? There was a really funny article about Taylor Swift on a satire site. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Shit, what was it? It was like when she came out to support. Did she stop? Was it when she started talking about Hillary Clinton is when she started talking about politics for the first time? But then there was a really funny article about her like coming out in support of like some sort of Japanese shogun. I think it was on The Onion. The guy just stares at him till he ends the call. Yeah, it's so fucking weird. Come visit my concrete farm. That was so funny. Oh, okay, you saw it 5 minutes ago. Yeah, it's so fucking weird. Essex people just disrespect my East End culture. Essex is literally, like, if people don't know this because they're not British, Essex is actually the worst place in the UK. It's where, like, so for example, it's where people who are, like, pretty middle class think they're, like, really hard, like, working class or something. So James Corden and David Beckham are two examples. They're, like, quite, like, posh, and, like, Essex is pretty racist as well. But they all think they're, like, literally East End gangsters, like someone was saying in the chat. Like, it's actually so cringe. Like, The Only Way is Essex is like a really popular show. If you wanna hate English people, watch The Only Way is Essex and just think about like how awful this show is. It's like fucking we have Geordie Shore, you have Jersey Shore. Geordie Shore is fucking stupid as well, but Geordies actually do have some charm to them, where Essex people really don't. How many subs do you need to change your web browser to dark mode? Yeah, Clown King. I used to love dark mode, but I get really bad I have really bad neurological problems, and basically, if I read something in dark mode, the lines of the text just like dominate my vision. It looks like can't even describe what it looks like. Has anyone ever eat like baked crisps where it's like just like lines on the crisp? That's what my vision looks like if I read like white on black, white text on a black screen. Essex equals British Texas. I mean, I don't even know what equals British Texas, really. Is Wessex still a thing? No. Wessex hasn't been a thing in, like, I don't know, like 1,000 years? maybe like 900 years. Because Wessex just became England, but the first king of England is actually crowned near to where I'm from. And fun fact. Okay, I won't even say it. So no, actually... No, there's a couple famous like international celebrities who grew up in the same area as me, and people. There's a couple people in the MCU, who are about my age, and they grew up in the same area, and people I know went to school, and it's so fucking weird seeing pictures of them when they're back home, because I think their family still live there, and it's just like I literally go there all the time, and there is this famous guy just hanging out. It's so weird. But yeah, Wessex, because I think it became the whole of England. With Athelstan, who's the first king of England, like 900. But I think he was like a client king of Canute, who's like that famous Viking king who like owned England and like most of Scandinavia. But I think Athelstan was the first king of England, but I think he was a client king. And then the first like modern king of England, well, people say it's like Alfred the Great and stuff, but like I guess William the Conqueror is the one who like kicked all like the Danish rulers out and stuff like that. Is that Middlesex? Yeah, Middlesex exists. Middlesex is fucking massive. It's a county in London, but like it's so huge. It's basically like I know people who live in like central London, like near Wembley, and then it goes the way to like southwest London. It's really massive. Yeah, Sussex still exists. That's pretty big as well. Karen Gillan. No, I'm not going to say who it is. A bit younger than Karen Gillan, though. Essex seems more like the Jersey Shore. Yeah, probably, probably is a better description. Geordie Shore is nothing like Jersey Shore, to be honest. Like, the two groups of people. Yeah, I hate all that fucking reality TV stuff. You're from Wembley. Yeah, Lawrence, like, Wembley. I'm from Middlesex as well. And I live nowhere near Wembley. Like I'm actually going to my friend's engagement party in Harrow on Saturday, and it's so far away. and he lives in Middlesex, and I live in Middlesex. I'm like, we don't even feel like we live even remotely close to each other, and we live in the same county. Mr. Krabs, thanks so much for the $5. Really, really appreciate that. I demand a 25-minute Marxist critique of that video of Mussolini pronouncing spaghetti. Biscotti? Wait, is this an actual thing? Mussolini no, I don't even believe this exists. It sounds like that spaghetti video. Back at the gamer gun range glasses. Yeah, I always wear them when I'm on the computer. Never caught one of your streams. Hey, small boy. Thanks for joining. Oh, yeah, George. Harrow's school is posh. Harrow, the actual area, is a fucking shithole. Like my friend, me and my friend, I go around his house sometimes. He's from uni, and then we went to he wanted to go to Nando's. He's a little chav, and we went to Nando's in Harrow somewhere, and he made me bring my car, and I was like, mate, this is the dodgiest fucking area. And I went to school in a really bad area and stuff. Not the worst area, but a pretty bad area. And I was like, this is literally the dodgiest area I've ever been in, and you're saying it's fine to walk around here at 11 at night. I'm definitely gonna get mugged. Cav and Benedict Cumberbatch were schoolmates confirmed. No, not him. I say I'm from Harrow instead of Wembley. To be honest, Lawrence, because I know Harrow is kind of bad, I don't think they're both pretty bad. Oh, Josh. Yeah, Josh, I quit my full-time job a year ago, so my schedule is whatever I want it to be. Hey from Cambridge. Cool. A lot of people up from the UK, it seems. Cambridge, Harrow, and Essex, I think someone said. But yeah, Josh, thanks for joining. Leytonstone, I've never heard of. What did John say? Yeah, Shay, you're not late to the stream. I actually don't even want to repeat what he says, because if you talk about that kind of shit on YouTube, I'm going to show you guys what he said, but I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, I'm not going to talk about what he, literally said. Damn, I moved to Toronto when I was 12. Back then, Harrow was still nice, I think. Lawrence, there are nice parts of Harrow, for sure. Generally, it's not that nice, though. I'm a developer, so I make my own hours anyway. What kind of developer? I used to obsess with Sussex, Essex. You need to chill. Progressives are leeches on society. A progressive vision is limited only... Okay, Brian. I don't know why you're here. Maybe my stream got recommended to you. Yeah, Sophia, I hadn't actually watched Vadim's video on Temple yet. But it has all those deleted videos that Tim put up. Am I allowed to have a massive crush on you? Asking for a friend. Yeah, for sure. I literally, this is no hate, but I do find it funny. Peter, I'm guessing you're a man, because you're called Peter. I said this before, the most first comments I get are from men, pretty much. Very, very heavily. I think probably because most of my audience is men, so obviously when you have most of your audience as men, it's very, very tilted towards men. But I appreciate it all the same. I just find it funny. My girlfriend's got nothing to worry about. I'm never getting first messages from women, so... the lads love Cav. Yeah, exactly. Spamming's happening in the chat. I don't see spam. Just that Brian guy. Okay, he can get banned. Did I ban him? I put him in timeout, I think. Tankies are rising. Yeah, I thought someone seriously called me a tanky yesterday for my Denmark video, and it turned out it was a fucking meme account that was saying it to me. Are there any directional identifications unique to your area where you live, like Cleveland has the lakes to mean north? I mean, not really. Because London's fucking massive. So if you say the Thames, that goes through the whole of London. So you could maybe say I'm north or south of the Thames as a reference point, but it doesn't really matter because it's such a big city. Us gals are getting too busy harassed to first tweet. Oh, that's fine. I mean, I understand. But to be fair, yeah, we were talking about that, on a serious note, we were talking about you in the parking lot and shit like that. It is fucking awful. It feels like the climate in the UK is so bad right now for that stuff. I'm always worried about my girlfriend not even just going out on her own and stuff, just because of the fucking stuff that's happened with policemen lately. A tanky is basically an old word for like Stalinist, but now it seems to mean anyone who criticizes the US. Yeah, Sean Head's takes have been so fucking bad lately about certain things, certain medical things you can get for free right now, and their mandates that you can that can enforce them. I don't want to talk about that too much, just because of YouTube being really sensitive. But yeah, like Sean Head's takes on that stuff are so fucking awful. I'm starting to believe she's anti that stuff. Who's Adam Carolla? I've heard of. I'm just gonna type that in my phone. Have I heard of RM Brown? You might enjoy his content. He almost got wiped off YouTube by Adam Carolla's copyright strikes. Yeah, that copyright strikes stuff is so fucking shit. Hey Olivia, thanks for joining. Sorry, Adam Carolla. Who? I've heard that name. Who is he? He's not that fucking Irish guy who's like an anti-SJW. Oh, American radio personality, completely different. It just looks like a fake Daily Wire thing. Can you imagine like being a conservative and watching all this stuff? How many people in the chat used to be conservatives who would watch Ben Shapiro and stuff like that? I'm really curious. Because when I watch them, I'm like, these are the dumbest fucking people ever. RM Brown. I think I have it searched already. Maybe someone told me to watch this before. Yeah, kind of like my style of content, which is cool. The views are really good, actually, even though he only has 23k. Oh, okay, he's posting about Adam Carolla stuff. Yeah, it was just some people. Like, that's the shitty thing about YouTube. You just got to be so careful with what you talk about and who you make videos on. That drink looks delicious. Thanks. My girlfriend actually said I made the best iced coffee she ever had. That's what I'm drinking. But what you have to do is what I do is I make hot chocolate, or is that what they call it in America? Do you call it hot chocolate, or do you all have to call it that? You know, like you're in fucking Home Alone, like hot cocoa or some shit like that, or like the Polar Express. So who said this? Someone said the drink looks nice. Anyway, I don't know who. I've lost the comment now. But anyway, yeah, like, and then just put coffee, but then you obviously like make the coffee like with the kettle, but then you just make it a really small amount, and then you just mix it loads, and then just put loads of milk and ice in it. But it's nice. I'm good at making it. Only thing I'm good at making. It's the Irish blood, yeah, for sure. Leftists are rotten as hell. Okay. Oh, Sergeant Novak said it. Half of Greater London is actually parks and countryside. Yeah, there's a lot of royal parks. Imagine being a sock dem. Yeah, for sure. How can a Pakistani origin person be mayor of a city like London? Is Islamist rising in the UK? I mean, this is an Indian guy who's probably pissed off I called out Modi. I mean, London is probably one of the most tolerant places in the UK, so I wouldn't say it's about the rise of Islamism or some shit. The next guy, yeah, if I was in America and I was a woman, I'd definitely have a gun. Iron Brown is hilarious, super cringe. Cav, do I hug and kiss the homies? No, never. I mean, hug the homies occasionally. I wouldn't go for the hug first. Yeah, occasionally. Never kiss. What are you on about? Can you imagine being a conservative? Yeah, I could never. The thing is, I made a whole video. Like, I voted conservative when I was 19 because in my area the options were Liberal Democrat or Conservative, but the Liberal Democrat had done something when he was part of the coalition government that I really hated, and the Conservative I voted for like worked in Gaza as a doctor, which is like kind of strange. So I just thought like I was a bit more in my like not edgy days, but I was like, oh fuck that person, I'll just vote for the other one. I made a whole video talking about like my political evolution. So for a long time, it was really weird. I voted for a Conservative because I was naive, but I also supported Bernie Sanders because I heard about him in 2015. So it was a really weird like evolution. And then I was watching actually some of my old live stream archives, and I was reading some of my old tweets actually on my old personal account. And what I essentially was a liberal. I was a liberal, but my foreign policy was left wing, if that makes sense. Like in terms of my actual politics, I was like, socialism sounds good, but it's very unrealistic, so we can't have that. And then in terms of foreign policy, generally, I was like really anti-war, anti-US imperialism. In terms of stuff like Islamicism, I was always like, the US essentially create this through their foreign policy. But then, like many people, which is weird because it's how you get manipulated by new atheism, is I didn't support Israel in terms of like, I was a big Israeli supporter, but for me, because of like listening to new atheists, not that I was a new atheist, but because they influenced me, for me, it was kind of like, I'm looking at two religious groups, and here are the Israelis who have like the Israeli far right, but they have like a more secular like element to them. Of course, even the people who founded Israel were quite secular people. And then you have the Palestinians who, because of like listening to a lot of these atheists, I just thought like, oh, they all support Hamas, so they're more extremist. And because I was like influenced by the new atheists, it was like I supported Israel more than Palestine, because I'm like, well, in this very, very narrow framing, the Palestinians have more Islamic extremists, even though that probably isn't even true anyway. So my politics were kind of weird. Like I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like I was never conservative, even though I voted for a Tory candidate once in one election. I think Brexit really radicalized me to the left, and then when I started my masters and started learning more political theory, that like radicalized me further to the left. But I've always been like, I think I've always been weird. I think my problem is that I knew about politics from such a young age, and a lot of the people I knew who didn't know much about it were like really fanatical left-wing people. And I think being around these people kind of put me off, because I'm like, well, you just feel that way because you're emotional, like, and you're not actually reading about this. Like, there's no nuance. You're just left-wing because it's like, it seems like the moral high ground to take. Like, I really hated Jeremy Corbyn to start with, but then I read some of my old articles I wrote for our uni paper, and I'm defending him against the anti-Semitism stuff, even though I don't like him. And I think it was just like I had a really weird political view. The thing is, I'm glad that even I look at one of my old YouTube videos and I'm defending trans people in like 2017, and even in my own head, I'm like, did I really care about that stuff? And did I even know about that stuff in 2017? It's basically some school these parents pulled their children from a school in Britain because one of the other pupils was transgender and they were Christians. And I was just talking about how ridiculous this was, like, you know, to be so bigoted to do this. But yeah, like, I think a lot of people. So I started my YouTube channel when I was 21, and I'm now nearly 26. So when I look back, I'm like, it was always there, but I kind of, not that I describe myself as an anti-SJW, but I think I was influenced a bit by that mindset where I'm like, the left are like not reasonable or rational. It's more like being centre left or being like some sort of centrist is like the best thing. Maybe like not that I even knew who Destiny was back then, but maybe like a Destiny style, like liberal. Not obviously I would never defend like Carl Rittenhouse even back then, because I was massive against guns as well, in the US. So yeah, it was an interesting development for me personally, because I'm thinking a lot. Like a lot of people, you guys in the chat, which is perfectly fine. I know a lot of you are a lot younger, but your shifts are so drastic. Maybe it's because of the American system, where the far right is so normalized in the modern Republican Party, where it's like you can shift from that to communist like quite easily, because the only other option you have is Democrats, and they're not even left wing. So maybe that's why Americans have such a big swing from a lot of you guys say, oh, I was like a big Trump supporter, or I loved like Ben Shapiro and stuff, and then you shift all the way from that to like communism. And I think it's a really interesting development. But like, I feel like for me, because it would have obviously a multi-party state, Overton would know is more left wing anyway. For me, it was like, you know, I don't support Jeremy Corbyn, and I don't really like either of these parties or whatever, like many of the parties, but like I'm still like a centre left person, and I might vote for like centrist Tories, or I might vote for the Liberal Democrats, but I'm not going to vote for the Labour Party or something like that. But I think everyone's got their own political evolution. I'm less sympathetic to people who evolve later on, but mainly for people who are very political. Like, I have no problem with people evolving at any age if they're not like really embedded in politics. But like David Pacman, for example, I made a video criticizing him about like his Israeli takes, and his Israel takes were about like 3 or 4 years ago. But I'm like, this dude is 37 now. He was like 32 when he said this, so that's like 7 years older than me. So I don't think he's probably evolved that much because he's been making political YouTube for years and years, even at that point. So I'm a bit less sympathetic. Like, if Ben Shapiro said he was a leftist tomorrow and he completely changed, obviously I wouldn't forgive him for what he'd done, but I'd also be like very surprised, because I think when you're a political person at that age, it's very, very hard to change. I'm sure like a lot of you maybe do know people who even are political people and have changed a lot, but I feel like for me personally, I think the bones, and also like as Brexit really ramped up, like I think with Brexit also there was a massive ramp up in like really visible xenophobia, and I think that also made me identify more with my Irish background as well, because I when I used to be more of a liberal, I used to be kind of like, there's a version of Britain which is kind of moved on from its past. Like, we obviously had the empire, but now we've kind of like taken that and we're like a multicultural society. We have like all these cultures mixed together in a place like London as well, which is like, more diverse than a lot of the country. So in my mind, I was like, there's a Britain to be proud of somewhere in my like liberal days. But with Brexit, the Leave campaign was so xenophobic against European migrants and like Muslims as well, weirdly, because it was talking about Turkey a lot, and I was just like, fuck this country, like for real. Like it really made me ashamed to be from this country. And I think even though I've always been an Irish person and like I have identified being Irish, I think it massively made me shift to being like, this is the same country that only 25 years ago would treat you like shit perhaps for being an Irish person. And I probably didn't realize that until I saw like the visible xenophobia against even like white people, like Polish people, Romanian people, Serbian people, for example. Like, there was massive xenophobia against other white Christian groups in this country, and I think that made me realize like this country hasn't fucking changed. It is the same. Like, I grew up in like this London bubble, which I wish London could probably be its own country, but I was like, I grew up in this London bubble. And Brexit to me just made me really realise it's like this country, like, and when you looked at the map as well, this is the annoying thing. This is the very devastating thing about Brexit. If you are like a more liberal person, when you look at the map, basically the whole of England voted to leave, and Wales as well. Like, by region, nearly the whole of England, apart from like London, I think like Leicester, maybe Birmingham. I'm getting confused because there was one big shock. It was like one of these like multicultural cities that did vote mainly to leave. And you like looked at the map, you're like, every region in this country, it like bought into this like xenophobic as fuck political campaign. And there's only like a few outliers. And of course, London has the biggest population in terms of city in the country. It's like nearly 9 million people. I think England's only like 57 million or something. So that's a large chunk of the country right there. But yeah, I think that really like snapped me out of it. Like, UK is nothing to be proud of. We haven't dealt with like and now, like I'm saying, it's not me. Like I'm that's why I mean my identity shifted so much. I'm like I got to remember now, like who my like where my family come from, who my family were, and like what they fought against. I've said to a lot of people, some of my family were like very high ranking in the IRA in like the 1910s and stuff, executed by the British. Other family members fought in the IRA in like the 40s and stuff. Others even fought in South Africa in like the late 1800s just so they could fight the British army and get some experience. And I'm like, that's where my family are from. And just because my grandparents migrated here, like all my grandparents are born in Ireland and lived there until they were like young adults. And I was like, just because they came here doesn't mean I should forget that A, they were treated really badly when they came here, and B, this country, despite Irish people, just like in America, Irish people kind of not easy, but in the last 20 years especially, like that kind of shit has kind of gone away in England, not in Scotland. It's still a big thing in Scotland and Northern Ireland. And it's kind of like, I guess it woke me up as like, you're not like a liberal patriot. Like, there is no liberal version patriotic version of this country, like that's just a total myth, because most of this country are extremely xenophobic, racist, and their idea of this country is white Protestant. And like, you should remember that there are parts of this country that if you told them you were Catholic, they'd probably maybe even resort to physical violence against you. So like, you got, like, I'm not a Catholic person, but because of sectarianism, people, if I was in a certain part of Scotland or Northern Ireland, you know, you could easily call me like a Fenian and shit like that. But yeah, it's definitely like an interesting thing. Like, I'm sure like a lot of the thing is, right, like for a lot of people, I've had some people on Twitter call me like a plastic paddy, and it's like, if my grandparents were all from like India, I'd be like, I just look Indian because my skin would be a different color, but because I'm white and I have an English accent, it's like, well, you're a plastic paddy, even though like all your family is from Ireland, and like literally all my family going back like 300 years are from Ireland and stuff. Like, I literally have no other family. I'm not like a mixture of like different nationalities, even though a lot of fucking Nazis like to say I'm Jewish and stuff, or like Chechen or Muslim and shit like that. But yeah, and I'm sure like a lot of you people, especially people who aren't white in like white majority countries, like it is like a big, it's something like wrestling with identity is an interesting thing, because in some ways I hate national borders and I hate nationalities existing, but in other ways I'm like, well, I live in a country and I come from a group of people who maybe I should, you know, feel more close to as like anti-imperialist. And even like the discourse around like things like Israel in Ireland is so different to the UK. Like, it's just like, they literally were just like, yeah, Israel and Palestine is like Ireland and Britain basically, and it's like they don't really pull any punches. When in the UK it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, don't get it wrong, we are best friends with Israel, please don't call me a racist, blah 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 blah. So like, it made me definitely like from 21 to 25, I've like really switched off the Britishness, if I ever had it anyway. I think I was maybe kidding myself. So sorry for that bit of a rant, but Zixon, thanks so much. Don't know if you're still here. I'm slowly becoming a lefty, to be honest. Conservative right-wing stuff is becoming too cringe for me. That's good to hear, Nick. User, oh god, I used to be an anti-SJW, so glad I'm class conscious now. Yeah, that's good. Like, I think a lot of people did. It's called hot chocolate, okay. We call it hot brown freedom. Paddy is quite an offensive term. I mean, it historically is, but like, I think it's kind of been like neutered a bit. I mean, if someone like aggressively called me it, I would be like, what the fuck's your problem? But like, yeah. So Nikita saying, Nankita, sorry. I was the same here in Brazil. I considered myself centrist. I studied humanities, so I thought that leftists were just annoying hippies before leaving college, and then I learned more about the left. Yeah, I'm the same. Like, I did history. I did a history degree, and then I did a master's in politics. So that kind of gave me like the theory I needed. But yeah, I feel you for sure. Yeah, the Marxists in London. Yeah, Lenin lived in London as well. Did I get an ancestry test? No, just like my family history. One of my aunties has it all, and it's just like literally just all back to Ireland, to like the 1700s and stuff. What's with the glasses? I just have bad neurological problems, so it just helps when I'm looking at computer screens. How did this guy get a job at... Oh, you're talking about Tim Pool. It was like Vice when it was run by Gavin McInnes, so probably not surprising. London is a bubble, unfortunately. Yeah, for sure. I wish London could be its own country. Even the English hate England. Yeah, I guess because London's so diverse, I guess it's like forming its own kind of like cultural identity a bit more, especially central London. But it's very like, it's still very like different parts of London have different communities. Like where I grew up, I went to school heavily Asian, mainly Indian and Pakistani, and we got some African there as well, like Somali and stuff. Whereas like North London is more like African, Caribbean and stuff. So it's and then maybe like South London is more white the more you go out of it. So it's still like a very generally London is diverse. Like I'm not too familiar with how central London is divided up. Is Brexit causing shortages? Well, I couldn't buy petrol for 4 weeks, and there's less food. But I mean, it's okay at the moment. It was bad like a month ago. Yeah, the Rittenhouse shit is crazy, man. What do I think of Zanderhall? I mean, nothing really. Like, I don't really consider him a leftist properly. I think he identifies more as like a liberal Destiny person anyway. Like, he said fuck all about the Israel stuff. I think that's telling since he streams every single day. Is Pac-Man a Zionist? I think he is. I couldn't vote for Labour after Iraq. That's how I feel as well. I was an awful SJW for a while, but I also liked Ayn Rand. I don't get it either. Yeah, Kennedy, your political evolution makes me laugh. So, but now you're like proper communist. So, so I'm reading some more stuff. Oh, that's interesting. Lawrence Pike. I got pulled into anti-SJW stuff on H3H3 and Fund the Foot. Yeah, I think a lot of people did, really. It was just the nature of the internet back then. Yeah, Sargon ran as a candidate for UKIP for sure. Jack saying you have to be brainwashed to vote for Conservative. Where I live in Australia, unfortunately, the media has made sure that most people are brainwashed. Yeah, that's fucking same in this country. Like the BBC, not even joking, it's worse than Russia Today. Oh, was I previous? Oh, sorry, Josh, I missed your reply. No, I haven't seen the Parenti Hitchens debate. Is that when Hitchens went full on neocon? As conservatives go, yeah, serving as a doctor in Gaza is not bad. I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy for a conservative. Cavs like homies to hug and kiss. Why would I be kissing my homies? I'm not fucking like Mediterranean kissing them both on the cheek. Xanaho was a huge simp for Vosh. Okay. I thought he was a simp for Destiny. Yeah, Edwin, that's what I'm talking about. Do I actually think God of War is bad or just overrated? I think it's massively overrated. This is funny, it keeps coming up. Yeah, it's a massively overrated. It should have been more linear, and it's just like trying to copy The Last of Us, basically. Low-key anti-Semitic for calling David Patman a Zionist. I mean, not really. I've heard him say in the past that if you support Israel's right to exist, you're a Zionist, so... I'm jealous of how easy you can talk about getting your masters. Higher education talk literally gives me anxiety. What do you mean? Do you mean like in terms of I can go do it easily, or like you want to do it, but it's stressful to think about doing it? What's the biggest city in London? England, I think. England is my city. Yeah, basically Patricius, they are like shooting range glasses. For me, they're driving glasses, really. Nice shades, Miss Kavernacle. I guess fangs. I don't really like wearing them, but I wear them for the stream. Yeah, there is a Northern Independence Party that wants to re-establish Northumbria, and I'm all for it, really. I'm considering becoming LGBT. Any advice? Right, how... What do you mean you're considering becoming LGBT? Do you mean you're considering coming out the closet as, like, one or two of those things? Like, you I guess you... Can you be all of them? I guess if you're bisexual, you're the first two anyway, and you can be bisexual and trans, so... Art Carson, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. Love your channel so much. Recently discovered it. I think the content is lovely. I appreciate that. Ross, I don't know if you're talking to me. I'm not offended at being called a paddy. Plastic paddy, I mean, is not offensive. If someone was like trying to kill me, like in Scotland, calling me a paddy, then maybe I would be a bit offended. Yeah, Alias Vyman, that's not a bad idea. I just haven't finished the new Far Cry yet. Yeah, that Lauren 7 video is super embarrassing. Devnal saying, hey, I just discovered your channel recently from your Hideo Kojima video. Excellent content. Inspired me to pick up the Metal Gear games. That's really cool. I'm glad you enjoy those videos. I have many. I don't know if you've watched all my Metal Gear videos. I do have about like 6, I think. But yeah, give the Metal Gear games a shot for sure. Okay, yeah, so I'm not anti-Semitic for saying David Patman's a Zionist. Katie's saying he literally said Zionism is not even just supporting Israel. He said believing Jews having a homeland is a form of Zionism. Okay, he also said Malcolm X is a Zionist as well, and Malcolm X literally wrote like articles about how he isn't one. So yeah, it's not anti-Semitic. I'm not just saying it because like isn't he Jewish or something? Back-end distributed systems developer, mostly in Golang at the moment. I've done most types of development though, except games devs because fuck that hell. Oh damn! So you must be so good at tech. Yeah, I met another developer and we're just talking about all this stuff. But like it, even though I consider myself like well enough informed on it, it just goes over my head massively. And even if you're talking about games development, I wouldn't understand probably. Thoughts on the Uncharted movie trailer? Tom Holland looks fine. The movie looks kind of weird. Mark Wahlberg is awful casting. Smith Black, thanks so much for the super chat. Will I play Crusader Kings 3? It's historical as AF. I always say as AF just to piss people off. Ben Shapiro and fucking Abby Shapiro's husband fucking love that game because you can create like a medieval Israel state or something. Drake, that's so fucking funny. Drake saying, when you tweeted about Death Stranding being better than God of War, and that the only good part was throwing the axe, I just finished God of War, and I always had the exact opinion. Drake, I think we're kindred spirits, if you totally agree with my take there. And I'm not really memeing. I genuinely believe that. Pretty sure he's a troll. Okay. Northern independence won't work. There's not enough of a national identity, insufficient economic base as well. The North is a part of England. It's English. Yeah, but couldn't you make the same argument for Scotland? And I support Scottish independence. I just got to the child soldiers in MGS5 and good lord. Yeah, Ethan, it sucks when they spot you and they're shooting you with real guns and you can't shoot them with real guns, so you got to shoot them with the stun guns. Yeah, fuck. I need to play that game again. I fucking love it. Just haven't played it. Yeah, Spooky Kitty, that's up to you. I haven't even seen the new Dune, so... Yeah, so this is someone who's saying being upset by being called Paddy. George saying, I had the shit kicked out of me in Glasgow once by a bunch of Rangers fans for being Irish, and I had a lot of Paddy insults thrown at me, but that didn't hurt as much getting my nose broke. Yeah, so that shit still exists, like especially in Glasgow and like Belfast and stuff. Sorry to hear that, though. That fucking sucks. Malcolm X was Islamic. Well, yeah, David Patman seems to think he was a Zionist, which would be weird for the Nation of Islam, but... Drake, I really like Far Cry 6. Like, the gameplay and the guns sound great, and just, like, the bodies... Like, actually feels like you're shooting something now. Like, I actually really like it. I'm taking my time with it, though. As they have. With the certified gamer glasses. Yeah, for sure. I love God of War. It reinvigorated my love for games. I mean, it was fine. It was a bit of a slog for me. I put it down for like 3 months before finishing it. Yeah, I can imagine why your friend likes the originals because they're so different from the new ones. So I can see why you wouldn't like both. Katie, that's so weird you say that. So Katie says, a client and I were talking about how great it will be when the Queen croaks today. Two lefty Irish Americans hating the monarchy in Delaware. The thing is, my mum got really funny at me when I said, I literally, not even saying I want it to happen, I said, I will not give a shit when the Queen dies, and it's going to be fucking unbearable in this country when she dies, how people are going to lose their fucking minds about it. And I said to her, I was like, as an Irish person, why do you give a fuck about the royal family? Their wealth is literally extracted from exploiting places like Ireland, countries in Africa, the slave trade. The monarchy literally had massive holdings in the companies that did the slave trade. The companies, I think East India Company was granted a royal charter as well. I think they had investments in the East India Company and the other types of companies like that. I was like, the whole of the monarchy's wealth. And the good thing is, like, the good thing about the Queen, I'm not wishing for the Queen to die or anything, but the good thing about the Queen dying is hopefully it will spell the end of the royal family. We just saw, I think, Barbados have gotten rid of her as the head of state and they've elected a female president instead. I would love Canada to do that. I would love Australia to do that. I would love, I think Kenya is in the Commonwealth. All those other countries, I'd love them to do that. When the Queen's gone, everyone fucking hates Charles anyway. People like William, but it's not like the Queen, like, because the Queen has the ties to like King George V and King George VI and even Queen Victoria and stuff. So, oh, Drake, that's nice to hear. Yeah, Drake, I haven't really finished the story in 6, but I do like Danny. I'm playing as a female Danny. Late time for a UK stream, fellow insomniac. Hey Hon Puds, are you a student or you just can't sleep? Cav is goated at troll tweets. The thing is, a good troll tweets have a bit of truth in them because you really got to get under people's skin. Yeah, I want Scottish independence. If you're a country, the thing is with Scottish independence, if you're a country that is so different to the ruling party, like Scots hate Tories, right? That you can see by their politics they hate Tories, and they're pro EU. If you are so different from England, who are anti-EU and pro-Tory massively, why would you stay? You're like being held hostage at this point. I'm like, in 2015, I wanted them to stay because I was a dumb lib, but now, like, for sure, like, I hope they leave. Okay, yeah, but God of War's a solid game. 7 out of 10. Which apparently is really controversial. When I tweeted that, I got so much hate for it. Even saying she better not die, I'm going to have to put my dress uniform on and it does not fit. Yeah, it's actually embarrassing Canada and Australia, like, still having the Queen as the head of state. The Queen will never die, I don't think so. You seen Dune? Yeah, I'm going to see it next week, I think. Trollmaster Kavernacle, yeah, for sure. First 2 were good. 3 is the best. 2 is my favorite Far Cry, but I'm liking 6 a lot. I think it could be my favorite one. Oh my god, yeah, George. Imagine if the Queen dies in November, peak Poppy season. I'm not sure I can deal with this country if it happens. Poppy shit is fucking annoying as hell anyway, especially because somehow all the ire and anger seems to be directed at Irish people for not wearing a poppy, despite like loads of Serbian people saying they'll never wear one either. Just can't sleep. Oh, that sucks. You watch cricket at all? Nah, sorry, I don't. I find cricket boring. I know that's like very dismissive of me, but there's only sports I really watch. I watch football loads, and I play football, and I watch rugby sometimes as well. Older people are weird. Well, my parents are weird because they were actually having a go at me the other day for saying I didn't care that Colin Powell died, and I'm actually happy that he is because he should have spent most of his life in prison. And my dad was like really offended by that, and I was saying like they're like you should have some humanity towards those people. I'm like I will extend humanity to politicians who caused. No, I'm not going to extend humanity to politicians who didn't extend humanity to, like the Colin Powell's case. Over probably 1 million people who suffered because of his policies, including covering up things like Milei in Vietnam as well. Like, what, I'm going to extend sympathy to that fucking guy? No fucking way. And my dad was like, well, he was credible and he like broke barriers. I was like, well, he fought in Vietnam, covered up Milei, and then he was in the first, I think he was in the first Bush administration for the first Gulf War. Okay, fair enough, first Gulf War, nearly the whole world supported that. That's whatever. Still loads of war crimes committed, like highway of death and shit like that. But okay, fair enough, whatever. First Gulf War, who cares? But then, he's literally the face of the lie of the Iraq War. So yeah, I don't give a shit. He should have been in prison for the last 10 years of his life. November 30th is my 30th best birthday gift. Are you 30 on November 30th? That's cool. It's like when I was 19 on the 19th. I'm not ready to be 26, so. Josh saying, as an Australian, I can safely say most Australians couldn't give a shit about the rules. It's mostly just a case that not many people really think about it. They don't care. Okay, that's interesting. Probably just not worth the political capital for a party to try and get rid of him. Far Cry 3 is overrated. I like it a lot, but it did set up like the modern UB formula. It was really cool when it came out. Small boy, this stream and chat are good vibes. Awesome. Someone else said that last week, so I'm glad it seems that way. I heard you mention Dune and it's good. Yeah, Kennedy, I haven't seen it yet. I'm annoyed. The thing is, because I love Blade Runner so much, his last film, Denis Villeneuve, I'm annoyed because now critics like it and audiences like it. So now I can't be a hipster for liking it. Like, I'm going to have to be a normie and just like it. I am going to go see it in IMAX, though. I'm hyped for it. Like, I haven't gone to the cinema. Actually, I went to Blade Runner double bill like 2 months ago. I saw James Bond as well, so I have been to cinema a bit. Uncharted 4, yeah, I'd say that's the best one as well. Yeah, James McLean when he didn't wear the poppy. Compare James McLean, who gets all the hate, and Nemanja Matic and a couple other Serbian players literally said like, yeah, I grew up in Serbia, NATO used to bomb Serbia, kill my friends, I'm not wearing the poppy. And it's like, yeah, fair play, mate. And then James McLean's like, yeah, I grew up in Northern Ireland, like from the community where like they killed loads of people on Bloody Sunday, like I'm not wearing the poppy. It's like, oh, fuck you, like Fenian bastard and shit like that. Like it's actually crazy how they don't care when Muslims and Serbians don't wear it, for good reason, of course. But when an Irish person doesn't wear it, it just kicks off. Like, if I was a footballer, I'd be like, go fuck yourself, I'm wearing that. I'm not wearing a poppy. Because the thing is, loads of my relatives fought in both world wars. If the poppy just meant World War One, even though I think that's like a ridiculous war anyway, if it just meant honouring soldiers who fought in World War One and World War Two, I totally understand that. Although I do think it whitewashes World War One a lot. And I don't think Americans also even understand, like, World War One is like a cultural thing in the UK. There's actually a war memorial. There are war memorials everywhere you go. To World War One mostly, but also World War Two, because they used the same thing. But I probably can think of like maybe 8 more war memorials by me, because obviously what happened in World War One is you had like communities sign up together, so you go fight with your friends. But then what obviously happened is those communities were devastated, and most of these people were dead, because it's like 800k died, which is an insane amount for that time. Double the amount of British casualties in World War Two, which seems like a more like, you know, a conflict that can go a bit worse and stuff because of the scale of like the technology and stuff. I'll see you later, Kennedy. Enjoy your stream, or you're not streaming, just playing with Vomni. But yeah, I hope you're fun. I hope you're not playing normie shit. Ethan saying, I hate poppies and I'm in the military. Also, that just reminded me it's poppy season, goddamn. All that money goes to the useless Canada Legion. Yeah, it's nearly poppy season, isn't it? Like, November's coming up. I haven't read the book. Curious about a leftist take on material, especially with colonialism and such. Apparently, it is quite a left-wing book, but I'm not too sure. If you like Blade Runner, you'll like Dune. It's different though. Like, I love the first Blade Runner film, and I like the book. Dune is like looks completely different to me, but I'm hyped enough. Like, good actors, good director. I want to hear the soundtrack as well. Oh, if the Queen blanks on that day, it would be the best speed they could. I think she'll be alright, to be honest. What is poppy season? Basically, in Belgium, there's like a poem about like Flanders Field. It's basically like a battleground in World War One where British soldiers like and like Allied soldiers fought and died. So in I think it's mainly for the Commonwealth. So it's Britain, Canada, and Australia. You have you celebrate the armistice 11 o'clock on November 11th, the end of World War One, and poppy is a symbol of that. So it's like for the charities. I think it's for the British Legion. But there's like this poppy nationalism where it's like, if you don't wear one, people will just say like you're unpatriotic and all this shit. So basically what has happened, I'm gonna make a video about this on the day it happens. Basically in the UK, there's been a movement by the FA, the Football Association, where they put poppies on everyone's shirt during this month, during November. But obviously you can opt out of it if you want. But what has happened is, like I was describing earlier, a lot of Serbian players don't wear one because, of course, they grew up in a Serbia that was being bombed by Britain, among other countries. So they don't wear it because people they know were killed by Britain. But then Irish players also don't wear it, but for some reason, they're the only ones who get loads and loads of shit about it. Where the Serbian players just go like, yeah, I'm not wearing it, like, this is why. And people are like, oh, that's so fun. I remember Matic is one of the more famous Serbian players. He plays for Man United. But then there's another one who plays for Stoke called James McLean, and he just gets booed all the time. But he grew up in a community in Northern Ireland that was like brutalised by British soldiers and stuff. So, but yeah, it's meant to be about honouring World War One and then World War Two. But now it's just become honouring all British servicemen in all wars. And obviously, if you're Iraqi, there's Iraqis who live in this country. If you're Afghan, there's Afghans who live here. There's Serbian people who live here. There's Irish people who live here. There's Egyptian people who live here. There's all sorts of people who live here who don't want to wear that and remember conflicts and soldiers who fought in illegal wars that destroyed that country and may have killed people they know. But it's become this. It's like the kneeling for the flag or like standing for the anthem, all that shit. It reminds me of the same crap. Yeah, but Drake, the problem with Powell, even if he didn't support it, he still went in front of the UN and said that Saddam had WMDs. So it doesn't fucking matter if he supported it or didn't. Are you born in 95? I thought you were born in 96. No, yeah, 95. I'm 26 next month. I haven't actually got around to anything I titled the stream about yet. I am getting around to it. Dooney's going to be a normie fan now, yeah. Wait, what happened to Rudy Giuliani? We talking about Rudy Giuliani? Has this just happened? Wait, what are you talking about? Is Rudy Giuliani dead? Or is this someone else? How do you spell his name? I'm spelling it wrong. I'm trying Rudy. Okay, who is Giuliani then? It's obviously not Rudy Giuliani. I thought you get me excited. He still breathes. Okay, don't get baited. I did get baited. You got me excited there. Is there anyone Britain hasn't tried to war? Can't really think of anyone. Yeah, Devnal, Poppy Day or Armistice Day is basically the Veterans Day. But that's why it's ridiculous, because it's like, not that war is apolitical, but I can get behind honouring World War II soldiers. I can even, to a lesser extent, get behind honouring World War One soldiers, although I still feel that whitewashes the conflict, because it should be about the soldiers who were forced to fight in this imperialist war. I think Lenin describes World War One best. It's just like a competition for capital, right? And it's rich people, because the army used to just be like you. I think they banned buying commissions in the 1870s, so you couldn't just buy your way in, but it's still like the elite sending poor people to go die for nothing. So if it was honouring that, I'd feel a bit bad. But okay, fair enough. World War One, World War Two, whatever. But now it's like, you know, you fought in Greece, you fought in like Cyprus, you fought in Malaysia, you fought in the Falklands, you fought in Northern Ireland, you fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. Well, you're a hero. Here's your day. And it's like, fuck that. For real. Like, obviously, I feel bad for a lot of these people, because just like in the US, the army is like the poor people make up the infantry, just like in the US. And it's like in North England as well. It's like the only option for a lot of these people. I totally understand that. I still don't have to honor you for this. Like, I get how it's like with the US, it's like this trap where it's like, it's so impoverished, it's your only opportunity. I don't think we should honor these soldiers for fighting in these wars, because it just whitewashes it and makes you think, you know, it's just fucking bullshit army hero worship. No, chocolate beer. Yeah, I'm drinking out of like a beer glass, aren't I? I'm back, we died. Were you streaming, Kennedy, or were you playing Fortnite or something? I mean, there's nothing. The thing is, it's like this bullshit patriotic socialism people were talking about. It's like, what the fuck are you proud about? Like, I'm not proud of World War One. Like, it's like absolute like the casualties in World War One are just so fucking insane. It's like 1 million French soldiers died. Like 1 million. It's just insane. And then like 800k for Britain. Britain is like an island that's not even connected to Europe, and 800k British soldiers died. Like absolutely insane. Obviously, like when World War Two, with some countries like Japan, Germany, the Soviet Union, like those casualties were like absolutely insane. It's like was it like 8 million Germans, 20 million Soviets, 4 million Japanese, and or something like that. Like absolutely crazy casualties. Where the British was only 400k. I think the French was only like 200k. America was only 400k, but obviously fried after the war because it barely touched the mainland. Sorry, one second, let me just finish this. That was quite nice, if I do say so myself. More than 2 million Germans died in World War One. Yeah, it's just crazy. World War One was more pointless than most wars. Well, it's literally just it was just imperialism, competition. It's like, well, Germany didn't have its empire. It won the Franco-Prussian War in 1871. They're scared, but then Germany even proposed a coalition with Britain to fight France and Russia. So it's like these changing imperialist like alliances, and then of course just it turned into like, you know, Britain getting involved because they say we need to protect Belgium neutrality and independence, but it's actually just like we have to stop Germany taking over Europe because then it's a massive threat to the British Empire. And obviously what happened with Britain after the war, obviously it's very weakened, but it gains so much more territory. It picks up like most of the Middle East from the Ottomans. I mean, like a lot, like some of my family died in World War One. Some of my family died in World War Two. The one who died in World War Two, like my great aunt's still alive. She remembers him and stuff. But yeah, like that, it's fine to honor people who died World War Two. Like I'll give that a pass for sure. World War One, yeah, I feel bad for those soldiers and everything. But then like fucking all these imperialist wars, like before and after, no thanks. World War One wasn't black and white either. I think World War One is pretty easy to see. Like it's just an imperialist war between the big imperial nations. It's just the inevitable conclusion of this age of European colonialism that then spills over because Germany becomes one of the best militarized nations, or Prussia does, beats the French, has no empire, has no territory to really claim as its own. Has a couple colonies in Africa, a couple in Asia, and it's just like, well, we want, you know, and the Germanic people, we want Europe for us. So, hey, little fox. Yeah, glorifying. Who's Jack? I'm not even seeing these people. Who's Jack Bennett Armstrong? I'm not even seeing someone called that in the chat. So I don't know who you asked me to permaban. Like literally, I cannot see someone called Jack Bennett Armstrong in the chat. Just finished my own stream. How was it, little fox? That's interesting, Devnal. World War One is such a dumb war. I'm descended from men who fought on both sides of the war, US and Austria-Hungary, and their kids got married. The thing is, if you think World War One was good, just think about how it quickly transitions into the Russian Civil War, where you have the Japanese, Americans, British, and French all fighting the communists, and then like the Czech Legion being the Czech Legion. This is the funniest part of the war. The Czech Legion basically was so Austria-Hungary, the Austria-Hungarian Empire included what would become Czechoslovakia, but a lot of Czech people didn't like Austria-Hungary, so they formed the Czech Legion, and the Czech Legion was, there's a lot of Americans who fought in the Czech Legion because it was Czech people from around the world. America was a key funder of this, like American Czechs in like what place was it? It was one specific city in America has got very heavy Czech and Slovak population. Anyway, but then the Czechs, because the government in exile or the government in waiting was in Britain, so the Czechs fought for the Allies, but then they fought on with the Russians against the Germans. But then what happened is they were running from the Germans, but then the Bolshevik Revolution took place. So then they were stuck in the middle between the Bolsheviks and the Germans. So they took over the Trans-Siberian Railway. And essentially they were just used as this force to fight the Bolsheviks to try and get their own independence for their own country. Literally the only reason the Allies really agreed for the Czechs to have their own country compared to others was because they fought the Bolsheviks and fought in World War One. But it's just so funny how it's like, that's how stupidly like this stuff shifts, where by the end of the Czech Legion service, they're allied with the Germans against the Russians, because it's all like geopolitics, and the Japanese are helping them. The Japanese actually help them get back to America, some of them, because they're waiting in, I think, Vladivostok. And then there's actually something really interesting. If you want to read a really unknown bit of American history, read about the Americans who went from World War One and fought in the Russian Civil War against the Bolsheviks. And people fucking hated them when they came home because they thought they were total failures and stuff. It's actually really an interesting period of history I never even really knew about. So it's basically they thought they were going home, and then they're sent by the American generals to Russia to go fight the Bolsheviks. And it's just like they fight the Bolsheviks and lose as well. The Bolsheviks are better fighters than them. And then it just talks about these people like, what the fuck are we even doing here? Like, we're in Siberia fighting communists. Like, I thought we were fighting World War One against the Germans. It just shows you like how bullshit like this whole context was. Like, there was no good and bad. It's all just shifting geopolitics where like the good Americans, they're suddenly fighting the communists who they were meant to be on the same sides with, like when they entered the war, the Russians and stuff. You're the CNN of YouTube. I mean, this is essentially just this spin it quick. In terms of, I'm talking about that Alec Baldwin stuff. Most of the right wingers commenting somehow think I love Joe Biden, and it's like, just because I don't like Trump doesn't mean I like Joe Biden. Do Americans not understand that? Just fuck off, man. Don't worry, I'll ban him. I'll ban him. I don't know who Kraut is. God, I fucking hate America probably more than Britain. I mean, yeah, maybe I hate America a tiny bit more than the UK. At this moment. Historically, I hate Britain more, though. Yeah, like, the Slovaks even had their own, like, fascist dictator installed, like, separately from the Czechs as well. Yeah, but Andreas, you can't. I don't think you can always, because in the My Lai massacre, some American soldiers threatened to kill the ones doing it to make them stop. So it's not always about like the people who did war crimes, like they're innocent or you know. Yeah, anonymity. I'm sorry. I learned a lot I learned about most of this in 2015, and I've lost most of my history work. I read a good book on the Czech Legion. So sorry, probably can't. Well, the US are the worst at the moment. Can we be English, Irish, London friends? Yeah, we should go watch London Irish together, the rugby team. All right, let's talk about this Tim Pool thing quick because I did promise. So basically, he's been heavily doubling down on the Squid Game not actually being about anti-capitalism. So Vosh was calling him out. So Vosh says the overwhelming success of Squid Game has forced conservatives into a position where they have no choice but to either pretend it's a bad show or pretend it's not the most obviously anti-capitalist piece of media to go mainstream since Parasite. And then Tim Pool says, The reality of Squid Game is that it's not a critique of anything meaningful at all. It's a good show. It could be construed as pro-capitalism, anti-capitalism, pro-communist, anti-communist. Everyone is... Oh, I know, see, you guys can see this thing properly. All right. Everyone is equal in the show. Certainly not an element of capitalism, right? Not everyone has equal abilities. But wait, to each according to their abilities, it's not really critiquing anything. A secret billionaire in control and immune sounds a lot like party elite. Oh my god, sounds a lot like party elites in real world communism. Also sounds like any other system ever. Elitism, neither capitalism or communism, however. So, secret billionaire in control sounds a lot like party elites in communism. Billionaire, communism. Billionaire, communism. In capitalism, people have to acquired power. In communism, they instantly seize it and wield it. Either way, the elites are a problem. In Squid Game, everyone wears the same clothes, a uniform. Uniforms exist under all systems, capitalist or communist. Well, he said in his other video that the uniforms show communism. But the left seems to misconstrue the core nature of free enterprise. Both capitalism and communism lead to elite corruption and oppression. Capitalism over time results in oppressive systems. Communism instantly becomes oppressive. One of the characters fed communism and ends up in the game. How is that pro either system? It shits on both. Well, also the character in the show who flees communism also subtly says that South Korea is actually worse than North Korea because they're not actually allowed to say anything good about North Korea in South Korean like entertainment and stuff. But here's the thing, like people like Tim Pool, like you might be like, oh, like he's criticizing capitalism. He's one of these weird people who like criticize capitalism, but then the caveat being, it's the best we have, or it's the best we can do. Like we can reform it. Where communism is just instantly oppressive. Like we never want that. That's what these types always say. So but the thing is, he didn't stop there. That's like, I don't even know what the fucking day is. I don't even know what fucking, what month it is anymore. But then he said today, it's surprising that people who think a show about people being forced into equality, stand in food lines where they are underfed and used as fodder for the elites don't represent communism in any way. He literally just made a thread talking about how it could be anything. But now he's saying it's about communism again. If Squid Game is about capitalism, then rich people would start off advantage and not equal to other players. Some players would have inherited advantages towards winning money. The reality is, it's just authoritarianism that leans against communism, but there are critiques of capitalism if you try hard enough. Forced equality at gunpoint, privileged elites controlling the game, people killing each other are desperate and angry. Is more analog to the Soviet Union than the US, where homeless people are overweight. Oh my god, this is the dumbest shit ever. Homeless people are overweight not because they got loads of lovely, nutritious food they're gorging themselves off, because the cheapest food that has the highest calories is really fucking bad for you, so it makes you fat because it's full of sugar and processed shit, but it's also the cheapest thing with the highest calories. That's why you eat it. That's why homeless people can be fat. It's not because they're like 16th century aristocrats in Britain, like eating a 7-course meal or some shit like that. It's actually the dumbest fucking thing ever. Being skinny, while not like a privilege, if you're going to eat healthy and be skinny, you need access to more expensive, more quality food. If you're poor, you'll eat what has the highest calories to survive and not die. Oh my god, like big brain Tim Pool, that's what he's hiding under his beanie. And also the thing is as well, the whole thing about equality in Squid Game, I haven't even fucking watched it and I know this. It's meant to be about capitalism where you're told no matter who you are or where you come from, you have a chance to make it to the top. That's the point of it. Playing this Squid Game is meant to be like this whole thing about capitalism where you're all told you're the same and it's all about hard work and like endeavor and shit like that. But in reality, it doesn't even matter about that stuff. Pretty much none of you are going to reach to the top. That's like what Squid Game is about. One person makes it. One person makes it out of all these people who die in this brutal system. That sounds like capitalism to me. What communist system does it have everyone trying to make it and then one person makes it and the rest die? That doesn't make sense in terms of communism. So it's even dumber than I thought. I just like glanced at it before we went live. But this is just fucking crazy, man. But then people like I was just back and forth with someone in one of the comments of my videos, and he said I didn't think you could make so many videos about how conservatives don't understand media, but like I'm wrong. You've made so many, and they just keep not understanding. And it's like it might be because Americans somehow think that like capitalism equals freedom, and that like left wing, right wing isn't really about other factors. It's just about freedom versus non-freedom, or freedom versus authoritarianism. So dumb. What a century of Red Scare does to a motherfucker. Yeah, exactly. So read some more stuff. his melting brain. Yeah. Looks like someone's not going to be back on the Tim Paul cast. Yeah. Tim Paul's absurdly stupid. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, some more stuff. The rich are literally funding the game. They have the advantage. Yeah. I bet you can even watch Squid Game, but that's the thing. Like, this is another part of my videos I've made about this stuff. Why do they think the media has? Why do they bend themselves backwards? They're like Elastic Girl and The Incredibles. Why do they bend over backwards to try and make the media they're like about their politics? Why can't it be like, I like that. I don't really agree with the political message, but you know, it's a good thing. Or like, I accept the criticisms of capitalism. If you accept the criticisms of capitalism and you're a capitalist, there are so many different forms of capitalism. Like, I talked about the Nordic model yesterday. The Nordic model is capitalism. You can say, I don't like American capitalism. I want British capitalism. I want Nordic capitalism. I want whatever. I want Chinese capitalism or some shit like that. It's like, you don't have to be a communist to recognize and even agree with criticisms of capitalism. While the capitalist message in Squid Game is pretty universal, obviously it has Korean characteristics, right? And it's like these people, they get so offended as of their political identity of criticisms, and they think if they like something, then it can't possibly like not agree with their politics. And like I said in my video about this stuff, I like Top Gun. It's a stupid 80s, like really cheesy action movie that I think is a good movie just for like those reasons, right? I don't think Top Gun is about anti-military industrial complex or some shit because that's my politics. Like, I don't understand. Just fucking enjoy it, Tim Paul, and recognize it. Like the director said, it's about capitalism. It's about his own struggles in this capitalist system. It's not about communism. This fucking guy never lived under communism. It's about his own fucking experience of life. Oh, God. Such a dumbass, man. Welcome to the Beanie Zone, baby. Yeah, Bioshock 1 is pro-conservative, according to Abby Shapiro's husband. Conservatives are dumb, yeah. Have I watched Fright Night, Cab? No, I don't like horror stuff, to be honest. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is propaganda, but I still like it. Yeah, exactly. There's another one. I love Top Gun, and it's such mindless Air Force propaganda. You can definitely enjoy things and be like, that was a dumbass political say. Yeah, exactly. I enjoy some Call of Duty games. I like Call of Duty games as well. I even like one of the grossest Call of Duty games, I think, for imperialist propaganda. I like the first Black Ops game, which is literally like revisionist history about the CIA. I still like that game. Mitch saying, politics becomes your identity in the US if you hold on to your ideas and challenge for long enough. And when no one talks politics, you don't get challenged, meaning it likely stays long enough. Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Like I said in my last stream about like shy Tories, where like political party support isn't as much an identity thing in the UK, but it does definitely seem that with the US. Julian, I was actually talking about that Valkyrie stuff lately. Yeah, for me, it just like I just like him in terms of like it reduces the glare of the computer and stuff. So, but yeah, the skincare, blue light skincare thing is so fucking stupid. This is the first Strand type stream. Yeah, I want more Strand games. I once had an Italian tell me that fascism was started by the left, and he lives in Italy. Yeah, the birthplace of fascism. He predicted Trump would win in a landslide. Yeah, that was so fucking stupid as well. I love Modern Warfare 1 and 2. They're incredibly stupid in the best way. I guess they sort of have some anti-military stuff, but not in a meaningful way. I mean, the second one kind of does. But yeah, Katie, basically there has been some really popular Twitch streamer who launched skincare that protected you from blue light. And the company behind it said there were studies that proved blue light negatively affected your skin. but they couldn't release the studies because other people would steal their research. So she's just been getting like loads of flack for basically like scamming, and she was pretending like it was like a passion project, something she really cared about. And she was saying like, oh, she didn't need the money, and then it's just so fucking stupid. It's like, the thing is, the research for blue light glasses isn't even concrete, right? And you're meant to think that computer glare like negatively affects your skin or something. Wait, is someone saying that the Nordic model is capitalism or something? Is socialism or something? Yeah, Bob, I've done a deep dive on Black Ops 1. Type in Kavernacle Call of Duty US propaganda, I think. Sorry, one sec, I was reading some stuff. The thing is, say okay, if I was a capitalist, I could so easily criticize the American system, because I always say the American system has got the worst of state capitalism and free market capitalism, in the sense that you have these absolutely huge companies, especially pharmaceutical companies, who are totally in bed with the US government, and they help pass laws which give them like little fiefdoms on like either territories for selling their products or anti-competition stuff. So like Pfizer and other pharmaceutical companies, they own like generic drugs and the real versions of their drug. So they can essentially manipulate the price on their own. They can have the generic and they can have the branded one and change the price for both whenever they want. So they can literally change the competitive price between them and drive up their own competition if they want. There is so much wrong with American capitalism that like real capitalists, in terms of like, I don't know, Adam Smith style, would fucking hate. Because you have the free market stuff on the lower level, where it's like this brutal system of like dog eat dog, literally barely any regulations in terms of like workers' rights, barely any regulations for like drug prices for stuff like that. So you can completely fuck with the market in that regards. But then the people who are fucking with your drug prices, which are unregulated, are also in bed with the government, so they can't be challenged. So it's like the word that I think the pharmaceutical stuff is the worst of both systems. Is that the pharma companies are in bed with the state, but also the free market stuff is on the lower level, where they can just do whatever they want with the prices. That like in the UK, there's massive drug price regulation. In many countries there is, but in the US there's none. And they also have all these massive companies, American pharma companies, that are in bed with the state. So, and you can make the argument, okay, like, we can have that competition on the lower level. We can have no price regulation for drugs, but we've also got to have all these different companies making their products, and obviously like approved by the FDA, but like making their products and putting them on the market so they can compete with each other. Not a handful of pharmaceutical companies owning both versions of the same drug, so they can literally control the prices and control the whole market. But that's why American capitalists are so fucking stupid. Because it's like, this is American capitalism, therefore it's the best because we're the richest country on earth. No, your elite is one of the richest on earth because of your system, which literally, without any regulations in a lot of ways, extracts wealth from the working class right to the elite. And this is in every capitalist system, but it's particularly brutal in the US, where you don't even have stuff like... And the thing is, it's like, the US is such a good example of like bare bones capitalism, that like the state would rather you die without health insurance and be replaced, or like not have minimum wage so you get burnt out and leave and some other like serf replaces you. Just like a revolving door. I think the US is the best example how a capitalist system and a capitalist government does not treat people as people, just cogs in this machine. And of course, like broadly, all capitalist systems do this, but the US is just so mask off that it doesn't even give a shit about this stuff. It's like, yeah, workers, like we will literally have these lack of regulations and everything. We also won't even care about you living to work more. You guys can fucking die, because health insurance is such a fucking scam where we'll let these companies inflate the price of fucking everything. No universal healthcare for you guys unless, you know, you qualify for maybe like Medicare and Medicaid, but still it's not universal healthcare. And it's just like, it's just such a brutal capitalist system. It's just so funny that Americans are literally cucked by like this awful system of capitalism. And like that's why I said in my video yesterday, I understand why people want the Nordic model. I'm not criticizing Americans or anyone else for wanting the Nordic model as like a step. Like I totally agree with that. If you want the Nordic model over the American model, 100% agree with you. That's such a better system of a capitalist economy, which doesn't hide about being capitalist. Like these aren't socialist countries. They're capitalist countries which have better welfare and more like socialized programs where they're not socialist, but your taxes get used to benefit you. So it's more like in the spirit of socialism, where you don't own like the means of production, but like your tax money pays for stuff that all of you benefit from. Where in America, it's like, yeah, pay these taxes, no healthcare, massive inflated military budget. Now we're all going to have a massive debate for months and months about the reconciliation bill, which will barely have fucking anything in it. Like, pretty much like less money on really important things to America than aid to Israel. So it's just like, Americans are so fucking brainwashed. Like, this, I don't even have to be telling you that from a socialist point of view. Like, I don't even have to say like, America's got to be socialist for me to tell you how crap America is in terms of its form of capitalism. But that's why I always say, people make fun of North Koreans. Americans are the dumbest fucking people. And of course, like, you lovely Americans in the chat. I'm not talking about you, but you are, you know, the culture in America about capitalism being synonymous with patriotism is a very strong one. North Koreans probably like studying America, like, how do we get our citizens to brainwash themselves? Or like, how do we create a system that these people so-called, you know, have free will, but they will brainwash themselves into defending this system at all costs? That's why it's just like Americans, I feel like, are so ridiculous in this regard. They're proud of this system. Like, how any poor people can vote Republican? How many poor people can even vote Democrat is beyond me. How many poor people can vote Republican while they literally like pick your pocket every chance they get while not even trying to do anything for you? It's just totally fucking stupid. We're definitely brainwashed, yeah, for sure. I want the Nordic model just for public transport and bike infrastructure. You know, like most countries do have, like, even like the UK has like pretty good public transport in London, but it's been privatized to shit now. We are treated like cogs. You can't give me free healthcare. This is tyranny. Yeah, exactly. Um, Yeah, so it's basically like broadly you can make the point capitalism pits the workers against each other to crush each. Like, that's like the point of Squid Game, isn't it? It's like it's a competition between you where the only chance you have of winning is crushing everyone else and beating them in this competition, right? That's like capitalism in a nutshell. But America is like literally, it's like you worship people who do this. Make them president. Make billionaire Donald Trump the president. Mark Zuckerberg is like a good person. All these billionaires. Elon Musk is a great person. Literally, you're told in America to crush other people for money, and that's a good trait in the society. Fuck the poor. Fuck handouts. Fuck the welfare state. Crush everyone and become a billionaire. Become one of the few. Become one of the few billionaires, and not the 300 other million losers in America who won't crush everyone or don't have the means to crush everyone to become these CEOs of bullshit companies and stuff. And I think that's the difference of America. Like in Britain, like I'm not saying we're not capitalist, but the capitalist elite in Britain, I guess because the nature of America as this like colony is like the new money, and I think that's what the Great Gatsby's about, isn't it? It's like the new money from bootlegging versus like the old Anglo-Saxon money, like of the original settlers and stuff. And I think America does have this like bourgeois like class, which people can like get into, and you can become part of the club without being from old school money. Of course, there is that old school money as well in like places like New York or even like in the South and stuff. But in the UK, pretty much all the wealth is concentrated in the hands of the people who used to rule over us like 700 years ago. It's the Tory Oxbridge all these people. So UK capitalism is very different in that there's a club, and the club are people who are all born to white, wealthy English families. They all go to the same schools together, and that's how the UK is so fucking corrupt. Is because the prime minister will be mates with someone who's in charge of a massive British corporation, and he'll give them a sweet deal, or the health secretary will, or the business secretary will, anything like that. The chancellor will. Where in the US, it's more like, because there's like new money, where like Donald Trump's family is an immigrant background, isn't it? It's like his granddad came from Germany. Where in the UK you really don't have that as much. It's more like, if you are wealthy in the UK and you're an English person, pretty much your lineage, you'll probably be able to trace it back hundreds of years to England itself. Where in the US it's like you have the people who were like from the original powerful families, like, you know, the, not saying his family, but like the Washingtons, the people who owned plantations. And then you have like the new money who come with like the more like, you know, like bourgeois class and stuff. But Britain is way different in that regard, in that it's kind of like your shit and like your play. It's more like a class thing in Britain. When in the US, I don't think there's a class structure that is as visible. I think the lines are a bit more blurred. Where the UK is really like aristocracy, and then middle class, working class. But even working class, middle class is a bit blurred here as well. So it's less like, people aren't brainwashed to think you can join the aristocracy if you come rich. It's like in the UK, it's more like know your place. Like, go to school, work hard, be middle class, own your house, live your life, right? But in the US, it's like, one day you can be president, or you can be the next Elon Musk if you do X, Y, and Z. There's not really that mindset in the UK. It's literally just like, you can live a nice life, but know your place. Like, you're not part of the aristocracy, you're not part of the wealthy, your family isn't like that, you don't have the connections, you don't go to Oxbridge, you don't know these people from like Eton and stuff. Like, most of our prime ministers went to the same fucking school, if you want a good indicator of how like class really dictates like British wealth. Of course, not in terms of, I'm talking about the people in like political life as well. Of course, a lot of the wealthy people in the UK are actually from other countries as well, like loads of Russian billionaires and shit like that. But yeah, in the US, it's actually like glorify and incentivize, like, become a greedy, exploitative capitalist and destroy everyone to get to the top, and then you'll be rewarded by being like a fucking president or something. Yeah, Nicky, man, that's what I was trying to say. That's what The Great Gatsby's about, and that book's like written like 100 years ago. And it's literally about new money from bootlegging versus old money from like, you know, plantations and shit like that. But it's also a good trick, and it's also probably in some ways why the UK historically has been better for workers' rights and like unions. Like Labour Party, let's not forget, was started by a miner who was a trade unionist, right? And in 30 years, they ruled the country, right? And that's just something that happened in the UK that would never happen in the US. Where the US is like sort of like created by these plantation owners, just to have their wealth more concentrated. It literally reminds me of the independence movements in South America in the early days against the Spanish crown. It's like, why the fuck are we paying you taxes? That's literally what the settlers in the New World used to like revolt against, like the Pizarro brothers, you might have heard, or like Cortez. It's like, why the fuck am I paying Spain taxes? They're not over here. I live here. Like, we should be our own masters and stuff. That's the same thing in the US. Where the UK is kind of like, just like, it's so fucking old, this country. And David Cameron, I think, can trace his ancestry to like one of the English kings in the 1300s or some shit like that. It's like, that is what we're dealing with in the UK. So there's more like a class thing where it's like, there is no expectation in the UK. If you work hard, you will become prime minister, or you will become a millionaire. I've never been told that my entire life. I've never been told I can become rich. I've never been told I can become. I've been told can become secure and well off, and like have a nice family, have like, you know, the suburban, you know, 2 cars, 2 children, a nice house and everything. But you're not indoctrinated to think you become rich. Like, it very much, there's the undertone of like, know your place. Like, you aren't going to become rich. Like, you can do well for yourself, but you're not going to become the next prime minister, basically. There's more nepotism, social mobility in the US. The thing is, it's a weird one. It's like, I think the US is unregulated. I think like, I don't know if it's totally the right term. I think in the US, the unregulated nature of its capitalist system means people can go from the bottom to the top easier than they can go from the bottom to the top in the UK, because there isn't the element of class necessarily that keeps you out of the higher echelons. Like Fred Trump, for example, isn't he like the son of a German immigrant? And he was very wealthy, Donald Trump's father. Where in the UK, I don't think there is that. But then I would say in the UK, obviously, the UK it doesn't has one of the worst capitalist systems in the world. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as like brutal because we've had socialist governments in power who've created like a welfare state. So there has been like a pushback on this aristocracy in some ways, and I don't think in terms of like because there's too much regulation in the UK, I don't think it's as easy to go from the top to the bottom. There's also not this real mindset to do that either. When the US, where it's way worse for people, like the poor in the US are worse off than the UK, aren't they? For example, like you literally just, you're pretty screwed if you're a poor person in the US in a lot of regards. You are in the UK as well, but I mean, it's far worse in the US. The poverty there, like, reminds me of, I was watching a video of all these people like opioid addicts or meth addicts or something. It's just like squatting in the street in tents. I'm like, someone in the comments is like, oh, I live in fucking Bosnia and I've never seen anything like this. So the US poverty reminds me of like India, Brazil. Maybe not as bad as India, but it reminds me of Brazil a lot. But yeah, I'd say there is like a lack of class to keep you down. Where in the UK, the class is just the aristocracy, I would call them, are just so in everything, like BBC, government, corporations. It's all like so linked. It's like Spectre and James Bond or Hydra. It's like these people all know each other. You'll become the director of the BBC and then go work for Theresa May. You'll be the health secretary and then go work for a big pharma company in the UK. You'll be David Cameron and you go work for like these think tanks or anything like that. It's like the class stuff, I think, really stops social mobility for most people going from the top to the bottom. You have people like Alan Sugar, who's like our version of Donald Trump, who was like a poor guy growing up and he became a billionaire. That can happen. Of course it can happen in a capitalist system. But I think in the US you get this it's like this startup culture and like just this, I guess even scam culture, like just making something shitty and becoming very, very wealthy as well. And like being incentivized to rip people off. I think because of the unchecked nature of US capitalism, there's far less regulations. And just like the entrepreneurial mindset that is given to you. Obviously, like I know why they do it, because it's to keep you happy with the system. It's to be like, you can be like us. You can be the next Trump. You can be the next, I know Elon Musk is South African, but operates in America. You can be the next Musk. You can be the next Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg. You can be these people. You just got to work hard enough. And it is this American dream is bullshit, isn't it? It's bullshit to convince you that the system isn't broken, it's just you. Where in reality is the system is broken, some lucky people reach the top. And you can even have a black president, for example. You can have Obama, single mother, grew up fairly poor, not like the most poor person, but fairly poor. Dad lived in Kenya and stuff, like didn't see him, didn't have him around in his life, and he becomes president of the United States, he becomes wealthy afterwards as well. So that can happen. But think of all the millions of people it doesn't happen for. So I'm just reading some comments. The American aristocracy all come from genocidal slave owners. Yeah, for sure. The proper like old school money in the US does. Like that. What was that thing with Ellie Kemper? That weird fucking profit. What was it called? The veiled profit shit. Like, that is like old school money, aristocracy America, isn't it? Humble Gamer, I don't think 2049 has like sequel bait plots at all. I think it wraps up quite nicely. I think the point of it is it's like a very individual story, and like Jared Leto isn't the villain in the end. like there's no resolution with that, not for a sequel, because like he's the most powerful guy in the entire universe. Just this one thing that has happened doesn't mean they have to take down Jared Leto. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think with 24. Now it's meant to be the point. It's like a more individual, small scale story in this giant world. That's what I thought. Read some more comments. Sorry, people are arguing in the comments about something. I love that scam culture, literally, though. The amount of lies you hear in school and the news by your boss. Yeah, exactly. Reading some more stuff. The UK has a big class or caste. I don't think it has a caste system. It has a class system for sure. Skid Row, yeah, shit like that is wild. Like American poverty is so crazy. I've read so many like Reddit threads about being homeless in America. It sounds so fucking dangerous as well. Like, obviously, it's always dangerous to be homeless, but in America, it's like just a shit because these people are so fucking messed up from drug abuse and like really hardcore like fentanyl and meth and shit like that, and they're just so insanely violent, like some of these homeless people. Obviously, like I feel obviously really sorry for them, but it's just something that you don't really get as much in the UK. Like homeless people, I've never had a bad experience with a homeless person in the UK, like ever. I've given homeless people money, they're perfectly nice and stuff, always like polite. Obviously, you know, they want me to give them money, but like I've never had a problem with a homeless person in the UK. But in the US, it sounds fucking wild. Like I wouldn't go, not out of like hating homeless people. I would just be afraid. I'd be afraid enough to like get into like a driving accident in the US and like someone draw a gun on me or some shit. Like I wouldn't really go near a homeless person in the US just because of like the crazy stories I've read, and that's more because of there probably are loads of like most homeless people in the US are probably fine, but I've heard so many horror stories of people on like bath salts, meth, like with giant like fucking machetes and shit like that. Like, yeah, like fuck that for sure. But it's obviously like a system that just does not care about people. Like, if you let people get that bad, like how can people get off drugs? Joe Biden's laws against drugs in the 80s stopped like clean needle centers. Like they literally used that in Philadelphia to argue against clean needle centers, and they won. Civil asset forfeiture, is that when you have to give all your stuff to the state? Yeah, born in a Hawkeye, the people you've met from Cuba, families probably own like fucking plantations and rightfully got ran off by the communists. I don't really got much sympathy for Cubans in Miami. Obviously, some of them who fled like the poverty in Cuba in like the 1980s, which is caused by the U.S. embargo. I don't have much sympathy for old Cubans who fled in the 50s, who owned plantations and were scared of getting their land redistributed. Alex say, my day job is a bus driver in a major city in the US. Homeless people are indeed dangerous and I deal with them regularly. The issue is the drugs, yeah, cause them to have psychotic, desperate episodes. Yeah, that's what I think is the difference in the UK. Obviously, like drug abuse with homeless people is pretty common because, you know, even trying to survive on the streets is really fucking hard. Either like just getting by daily or just numbing yourself to the awful conditions. Like, I totally understand that. But like in America, the drugs that are available are just insane. Like fentanyl is not a problem in the UK, really. But fentanyl is everywhere because they're cutting it with everything, and they're also like opioids. People are getting given fentanyl now by doctors and shit. You like, I got broke my nose and I got prescribed like some sort of codeine, which is like some sort of tablet morphine. But it's not that strong though. But I remember just off the top of my head, Joe Rogan was saying when he broke his nose, he was given OxyContin, which is so fucking potent. He's like, I do not need this to get over my broken nose. But they wanted, because obviously the capitalist system in the US is so shitty, their doctors are incentivized to give people OxyContin. Thoughts on Scarface, 1983. Well, I love Oliver Stone's autobiography. It's probably one of my favorite non-fiction books. He narrates it for the audiobook. And what I love about Scarface is the Cubans in Miami, the right-wing Cuban exiles, they really pressured him to make Scarface, Tony Montana, a communist, because he made him a right-wing Cuban. They're like, oh, this makes us look bad. And then he was like, because Oliver Stone don't give a shit. Like, he likes Fidel Castro. He was like, yeah, fuck you. I'm making Tony Montana, making him, you know, an ex what even is it, like an ex-convict or some shit. Like, he's right-wing Cuban. And it's like the Cubans fucking hated Oliver Stone for Scarface. But generally, I like it. It's a good film. Obviously, Brian De Palma, like, really epitomizes that sort of 80s filmmaking, like with Carlito's Way as well. Is a great film. So yeah, I like it. I like it enough. And I like Oliver Stone's work generally. So Born a Hulk. I have met people who fled Iraq, which has been destroyed by the UK and the US, and fled to Britain. So that's pretty much it. I haven't met, but I got loads of friends whose family grew up in communist systems. They don't really give a shit. Like Polish people, obviously, and Serbians. But most Cubans you meet are fucking brainwashed Trump supporters. It's like the South Vietnamese in America. Primarily, the older generations vote for Donald Trump and the Republicans because they're massive anti-communists. Because they got their country rightfully ripped away from them and ripped away from the dictatorships there. Like any fucking liberal who says the communist revolutions in Cuba and Vietnam were bad are just fucking like lying to you or just don't understand enough about them. Like if you're taking Castro, if you're taking Batista over Castro, you're a fascist. And if you're taking the South Vietnam over North Vietnam, you're a fascist as well. ZM Sims. Yeah, well, ZM was fucking killed by the CIA, so... Yeah, Chasing the Light with Oliver Stone. The audiobook is really good. His life is fucking crazy, man. I'm so jealous. Not really, but I am jealous. Like, it's crazy how, like, much people fit in real life. Like, Oliver Stone's granddad fought in World War One. Mum lived in occupied Nazi Paris. Dad was was a top person in General Eisenhower's staff in World War Two. Oliver Stone went to like a pretty prestigious school. He then went to go teach English in South Vietnam. He then went back and fought in 2 tours of South Vietnam. He then went back to Mexico with loads of weed he'd taken from Vietnam, went across the border and got stuck in prison in I think maybe the border, like, I don't know what state it was, maybe New Mexico or some shit like that. And then his dad bailed him out. Then he goes to live in New York trying to write his Platoon script. Then he gets taught film by Martin Scorsese and gets taught acting by Frank Langella in New York. And then he eventually like writes his script, and then he's good at screenwriting, so he gets a job writing on Midnight Express, which he does in London, wins the Oscar for Midnight Express, and then makes obviously his film, what was it called? Salvador. And he just talks about like how crazy that was filming that. And then eventually actually he actually made Born the 4th of July 10 years before it came out, starring Al Pacino. But then at the last minute they pulled the plug, and then he makes his film Platoon, obviously, and just like when you hear him talk about going to the Oscars in 1978, he's like mixing with like the new people, like your Steven Spielberg's, Martin Scorsese's, but he's also mixing with like John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart and stuff, and it's really interesting. Like he's at like the brink of like new versus old Hollywood, and he just experienced it all. Like, you know, he's friends, and he's also like friends with like Mick Jagger. Michael Caine was in one of his early films, and just like going to dinner with all these people. It's just like he's just like a guy who's like really at the center of history. He has some weird takes on some stuff. Like, I do appreciate his anti-imperialist voice. Also, I think his take on the JFK assassination is just really clouded by him liking JFK a lot. I think he relates to JFK being like this privileged veteran and stuff. He seems to think Johnson was in on it, which I totally reject. He also thinks JFK was killed because of Vietnam, which I also reject. But very, very good book. He's also an amazing writer as well. Like, that goes without saying, like, the stuff he's written, but the book particularly, I love how he basically compares himself a lot of the time to like Odysseus and like other Greek figures. Like he really does love like really old school, like ancient stuff. He's one of the best writers, to be honest. And I think his book is his best like written work, to be honest. Yeah, Fabian. It was just before John Wayne died. Oliver Stone said he was really, really sick. Cav, your haircut is nice. I hope you have a good night. Yeah, my girlfriend gave it to me, so if you ever see it, compliment her hairdressing skills, since she isn't trained, but she always does a good job. Now, JFK, like I've put forward my theory. So Oliver Stone thinks JFK was killed by the military-industrial complex because he was going to withdraw troops from Vietnam. I reject that completely, and he thinks Johnson and J. Edgar Hoover were in on it. So I reject that completely because JFK escalated the Vietnam War. He gave approval to killing Diem, which meant the US couldn't leave because he was the strongest political figure in South Vietnam who could stand on his own without US support. So he committed US forces there. So in my mind, it's all about Cuba because of Havana. Joe Kennedy was very good friends with the mob. They'd promised the mob that the Kennedy administration, if they won, would go easy on them. But then RFK started the war on crime. And then basically it's Cuban exiles. This is my theory. Cuban exiles who were very active in Dallas. Cuban exiles teamed up with the mob because there is clear links between them. That's a fact. The mob and the Cuban exiles were linked together because the mob was in bed with Batista back in Cuba. What I think is undercover CIA agents were embedded in the mob and the Cuban exiles. So they helped plan the assassination of JFK. These like maybe like CIA underlings, like CIA agents. And basically what I think after he was killed is the higher echelons of the CIA found out and they covered it up with the Warren Commission. That's my theory on it. I don't think it's a top-down operation. I think that's way too hard to cover up. He seems to think that like Dulles and maybe Johnson were in on it. Well, I think it's like it is the mob and Cuban exiles, probably with local CIA help, that is then covered up by the establishment way later on. So I don't think it's Oliver Stone thinks it's all about military-industrial complex and like Vietnam. I don't think it is. That's my take on it, really. Yeah, but Android Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill the next year, so yeah, John Wayne was a massive Republican. Yeah, JFK wasn't going to withdraw troops yet. But that's why I find Oliver Stone weird. It's like he's a massive anti-imperialist, but he's also like a huge simp for JFK. I think it blinds his overall takes on the assassination, really. Because they want to basically they wanted to kill JFK because he Bay of Pigs was Eisenhower's idea, or like the CIA's idea under Eisenhower. JFK fired a lot of the CIA people involved with that, and he also changed his policy on Cuba, obviously with like after the Bay of Pigs and stuff. So the CIA's incentive is just because JFK is less listening to the intelligence officers, but I think they're just so embedded that the general goal, I think, the CIA is to help the Cuban exiles. So I just think there's like not I think it's not like rogue CIA, but it is CIA acting without direction from the director or something like that. When are we getting to JonTron? I mean, I might just throw it up in a sec. I'm kind of done though, I think. So basically, JonTron, I don't even want to say it because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube now, but JonTron basically was just attacking Fauci and trying to discredit a lot of medical science around a particular thing that there are mandates for. Basically proving still he's a right-wing chud, as we already know. So yeah, this is what his tweet was. Can you guys see this? So it's just fake news going around about this, basically. And then, yeah, basically he's just spreading fake news because he's a massive fucking shithead Republican. And that's it. and I would talk about it more. I would even make a video on it, but I just... don't want to. All right, we've been going for about 2 hours, so maybe we'll leave it there. When you get beaten by Destiny, you know you're ignorant. Yeah, Destiny's finest hour. Cav proved right. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to the stream. Appreciate it. Had a lot of fun. Yeah, just dunking on Tim Paul. Just talk about loads of other random shit. Always good to get like a couple hundred viewers as well. I have no clue what to